Thank you everyone for joining us. We now move on to our next session, the fireside chat between Mr. Satya Nadella, CEO Microsoft, and Mr. K.T. Ramarao, Honorable Minister for Industries and Commerce, Government of Telangana, on Charcha 2021, Healthcare to Hit Refresh.
Thank you, Satya, for doing this. Thank you for choosing to join us for BioAsia, which is our flagship initiative, because life sciences is a very, very important sector for Telangana and Hyderabad. And of course, information technology is another very important sector for us. And for the rest of the audience, you know, this man needs no introduction. He's a world-renowned CEO. And of course, we are proud from Hyderabad, Telangana, and India. Satya, of course, has been leading global forums to ensure that technology addresses the challenges facing humanity, particularly access to healthcare, digital transformation in healthcare, and the developing role of AI has been something very, very close to Satya and Microsoft's heart. So we are here to chat with Satya about a bunch of things, that we all have been thinking over the last 1 year, particularly, going through this pandemic. Satya, as we all know, COVID-19 has changed, the way we do business, the way we live, the way we work, etc. But particularly, I think what excites me is it also has brought about several points of intersection between various industries, multi-stakeholder engagement, cutting across industries, and, all, of course, aiming at reducing the cost of drug development and, for cheaper, accessible healthcare outcomes. What are your thoughts on how organizations and, businesses at large need to relook at this multi-stakeholder engagement and eventually possibly look at accelerating transformation out of this pandemic?
First of all, Ram, it's such a pleasure to be with you and to be able to join BioAsia Forum. It's fantastic that you're holding this, and obviously being able to join virtually a meeting in Hyderabad always gives me a lot of pleasure. To your point, interestingly, if you think about what this pandemic has done, Ram, is it's just across the board accelerated digital transformation. In the first instance, I even shudder to think what would the world's level of productivity and economic activity been if it was not for even the current generation of technology, whether it is a cloud or technologies like Teams or what have you, which just kept us going. In fact, I would say the first phase for us, we became digital first responders to all the first responders out there, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in critical manufacturing and retail. But to your point, there's real structural change, right? If you take even in healthcare, I don't think we ever are going to go back and say that outpatient visit will always start with some AI triage tool on your mobile app that then leads to a telemedicine visit that then perhaps leads you to going to the outpatient ward, right? So that workflow is truly transformed. But I think that type of workflow, when I think about healthcare in particular and the cost of healthcare, it's all in workflow. So being able to sort of think about the innovation around patients and their families, reducing the burden on the frontline workers, better tools for physicians so that they can spend more time with the patients versus even information entry, for example. The fragmentation, in order for us to be better at healthcare, you have to really transform or bring all the silos down across healthcare. That's another massive place. And then the connectivity, as you mentioned, across the sector, right? One of the things we, for example, very early on in the pandemic was worked with a company called Adaptive Biotech, which was figuring out how does the immune system actually respond to the virus? Because the understanding of that was going to be critical for the drug discovery and the vaccines. So the idea that you can now use, whether it's clinical data for drug discovery, and that speed with which that feedback loop works is all being completely transformed. And so I'm really looking forward to coming out of this pandemic. How do we, as a society, as a global community, get better at, quite frankly, handling the next tail event? Because we can't predict what the next tail event is. It's probably not a pandemic. But whatever is that tail event, I think we'll be better equipped, both from a resiliency perspective and our ability to adapt because of digital tech.
That's actually fabulous to hear, because our Chief Minister, KCR Garu, keeps telling us each and every day that any technology that does not have a positive societal impact is futile. And I'm delighted that, a world-renowned CEO of one of the largest corporations in the world, a tech corporation in the world, is actually, also positively looking at impacting society at large in a very positive way. Another impact that I quickly wanted to, highlight out of this pandemic, we've all kind of gotten adopted to the new normal, new way of working, virtually. Even this conference and even this interaction, unfortunately, is all virtual. One of the things I wanted to ask you, what's your take on the new ways of, working, new ways of working from home, virtually, etc., and where are we headed?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ram. I mean, I think the key word perhaps is flexibility. When I think what's sort of going forward, I think we are all going to expect more flexibility in terms of time. We're going to expect more flexibility in terms of site and place. And so I think that in order to do that, though, you need new tools. So, for example, collaboration. One of the things that I would say this pandemic has really pushed us is to ensure that you can always work from home, but still collaborate with other people. But it's no longer, Ram, just for the knowledge workers, right? So it's even for the frontline workers. Think about this. You are a frontline health worker and you want to call maybe an expert who maybe is at home. And you're able to now do that, whether it's using something like even HoloLens or even just a messaging application like Teams. So that ability to collaborate across frontline and knowledge work, I think, is transformed. Another aspect, Ram, I'm seeing, which is really changing is learning, right? I mean, all of us are bringing in new people into our organization, trying to build that human capital. And a lot of human capital depends on social capital. After all, we learn from others whom we interact with. But learning now needs to come to the tools you use. So I think, after all, if we sort of say every institution is only as good as it can learn every day, then you have to rethink how that learning happens on a daily basis. And then the last piece I would say is well-being. Just because, like sometimes I joke, like right now when I'm working from home, I don't know whether I'm working from home or sleeping at work. And you need to make sure that you have the ability to use data to take transitions, take those breaks. You need to even equip managers so that they can care for their employees. So I think collaboration, learning, and well-being are fundamentally the things that are going to transform how we think about work while giving people a lot more flexibility.
Thank you, Satya, for that. And another dimension to the whole, tech space over the last one decade particularly has been the startups, innovation, startups. I know you are you're betting big on startups as well. Disruptive technologies are, of course, shaping the future of business, irrespective of, what business we are in. But particularly since we're talking BioAsia, since we're talking this pandemic, in healthcare value chain, how do you see, as we reimagine the medicine of future, how do you see, startups shaping up the future of our business?
Right. First of all, I distinctly remember, I think, visiting the T-Hub with you, maybe even 5 years ago. And you're absolutely right. I mean, if you think about, especially as computing comes together with biology, what can be the pace of innovation? And startups have a huge role. And in fact, it's fantastic to see the risk capital getting allocated, quite frankly, to these domains of biology and fundamental drug discovery at a rate that I think is impressive. And even in India, for example, I came across a company that was just fundamentally changing even the speed with which we can do clinical trials. I think it's called Symetric, which is because clinical trials is a big rate limiter in our ability to come up with anything new. So that's fantastic to see. Even some of the voice technologies, after all, in order to reduce the barrier to achieving great healthcare. In fact, for example, Apollo Hospitals has built a complete 24/7, approach to how they can take their care. And some of the technologies around voice enabling of things there are being built by startups, even out of India. And it's fantastic to see that. One of the things that, really was pleasing for me to see, Ram, was we had worked for a long time on essentially a medical adherence technology at the lowest cost, using essentially someone calling you and messaging you on a cell phone for TB. And we now see that it was called the 99 Dots program. But the thing that really warms my heart is to see that taken by a startup called Earwell Health Solutions and really scaling that out as a medical adherence technology for everyone. So I think that there will be lots and lots of breakthroughs, whether it's around the patient care or on the drug discovery, that I think all are going to get funded and are going to come out with breakthroughs that I think all of us really surely need around the world.
Thank you, Satya. We distinctly remember your visit to T-Hub, and I'm glad to also share with you that T-Hub has really, really shaped up well. It's become sort of, the epicenter of activity for startups in Hyderabad. And, we look forward to you visiting us again. It's sometime, when you actually get around to visiting Hyderabad in India. One another question, Satya, I think that has kind of been a concern for all of us. In fact, recently, my son is 15. I bought him a pair of shoes which apparently have a tracking device, of how many, steps he's taken, how much distance he's traveled. We all are into apps. We're all into these social media platforms, fitness devices, fitness trackers, etc. One question that kind of has been bothering all of us, is data security and privacy. Now, from a government perspective, of course, there are things we do, there are things we cannot, because there is a lot of concern with respect to this, particularly in the healthcare segment. How can these be regulated in terms of our concerns, people's concerns with respect to privacy and data security? How can we regulate and how can we address this issue going forward, Satya?
No, first of all, Ram, I think you're absolutely right that going forward, as technology, to your point, as it becomes so pervasive in our lives and in our society, in our economy, I think, at least speaking for even a company like ours that's sort of building these platforms and tools, we need to take responsibility to ensure, for example, by design, out of the gate, we build for privacy. We build for security. We build for AI ethics. We even build for internet safety, right? Because these four things are not things we can wait even, quite frankly, for regulation. We have to, even from an engineering and a design ethos perspective, build it into our core, right? We can't afford to say we'll build it, we'll see what breaks and then fix it, because that attitude, quite frankly, is not tolerated in any other industry, and it should not be even in the tech industry. So one of the things that we are trying to ensure is by design, how do we have that design principles and engineering processes to ensure that we are making sure that the products, the services are respecting privacy, security, AI ethics, as well as the fundamental internet safety. But then beyond that, you're right in saying also that there will be regulation. After all, in privacy today, all over the world, there are regulations. Europe was first with GDPR. It's spreading everywhere. So privacy as a human right, I think, is going to be recognized. And there will be other regulations which are going to say that when you use in healthcare, for example, data, who is benefiting? Ultimately, if some patient data is being used, it has to benefit the patient. So I think that the value exchange around data, its privacy, or if it's being used, who is benefiting, are all things where there are going to be rules that are going to be legislated. Same thing with facial recognition. Same thing with AI ethics. And so I look forward to a world where we do have, just after all, we have food safety laws, we have drug safety laws. There will be similarly, I think, rules and regulations. Hopefully there's a global norm, Ram. That's one thing that I would hope for, is that we don't fragment, that we are able to, whether it's on privacy or other safety, we bring together a set of global rules that will allow all of us to both comply and make sure that, what we build is safe to use.
Thank you so much, Satya. I look forward to seeing you in Hyderabad. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for joining us in BioAsia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ram. It's such a pleasure to be with you. Cheers.